Have you ever stood at the edge of the ocean at night, watching the black waves crash against the shore, and felt a profound, primal sense of fear? It's a feeling that transcends logic. It's the fear of the vast, the unknown, the unfathomable. We call it thalassophobia. But what if this fear is not irrational? What if it is an ancient, buried instinct, a genetic memory passed down through millennia, warning us of what truly lies beneath? They tell us we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about our own ocean floors. Over 95% of the world beneath the waves is a complete mystery, shrouded in a darkness so absolute that sunlight has never touched it. It's a realm of crushing pressure that would pulverize steel, and a cold that would freeze life in an instant. We send probes and submersibles into this abyss, and they send back fleeting images of a world that seems utterly alien. But what if the most alien things down there are not the bizarre fish or the giant squid? What if there are things that listen to us, things that watch us, things that defy every law of nature and history as we know it? For decades, we have been listening. A secret network of underwater microphones, originally placed to track enemy submarines, has been recording the symphony of the deep. But among the songs of whales and the groans of tectonic plates, there are other sounds, anomalies, noises so powerful, so strange, they simply should not exist. In this investigation, we are not just telling stories, we are presenting evidence. We will journey to the darkest corners of our planet to confront 5 forbidden mysteries that science struggles to explain and that governments have tried to ignore. In the next moments, you will not only learn things that will challenge your perception of reality, but by the end of this journey, I promise you will never look at the ocean the same way again. This is not a work of fiction. This is a descent into the truth. So, take a deep breath. Our first stop is a sound, a single terrifying noise from the abyss that was so loud, it was heard across an entire ocean. They gave it a simple name, a name that hides its monstrous implications. They called it the Bloop. Our story begins in the summer of 1997. The Cold War may have been over, but its ghost still lingered in the form of the Sound Surveillance System, or SOSUS. This was a top-secret network of hydrophones, highly sensitive underwater microphones, laid out across the seafloor of the Pacific Ocean by the United States Navy. Their purpose was singular: to listen for the near-silent hum of Soviet nuclear submarines. The system was so sensitive, it could distinguish the sound of a specific vessel's propeller from thousands of miles away. But in its decades of silent vigilance, SOSUS recorded more than just the machines of man. It recorded the heartbeat of the planet, and on one fateful day, it recorded something that belonged to neither. Scientists at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, were analyzing the data when they found it. A signal of immense power, originating from a remote point deep in the South Pacific, roughly 1,750 kilometers west of the coast of Chile. It was an ultra-low frequency sound, below the range of human hearing, but its amplitude was staggering. It was so powerful that it was picked up by multiple hydrophone arrays, spread across a distance of over 5,000 kilometers. This wasn't the sharp crack of an undersea earthquake or the long, low rumble of a volcano. The sound's profile was unique. It rose in frequency for about 1 minute, before fading back into the ambient noise of the ocean. To make it audible, the scientists had to speed up the recording. The sound that emerged was bizarre, organic, and deeply unsettling. It was a strange, ascending bloop noise. The name stuck, the Bloop. The first question was immediate and obvious. What could possibly make such a sound? The acoustic signature had the characteristics of a living creature. Unlike the chaotic noise of geological events, the Bloop had a structured, organized pattern, much like the vocalizations of marine animals. But here is where the mystery deepens into terrifying territory. The sheer volume of the sound was off the charts. It was many times louder than the call of any known animal on Earth. Our planet's reigning champion of sound is the blue whale. Its song can reach 188 decibels and travel for over 800 kilometers. But the Bloop dwarfed it. For a sound to be heard across a 5,000-kilometer expanse of ocean, the source would have to be generating a noise of almost unbelievable power. Scientists and acousticians did the math, and their conclusions were chilling. The creature, if it was a creature, would have to be of a size that is difficult to comprehend. Something far, far larger than the blue whale, the biggest animal known to have ever existed. This wasn't just a new species. This would have to be a new category of life altogether, a true leviathan. The discovery sent ripples through the scientific community and beyond. The public imagination was captured. A monster, a real monster, was living in the dark, unexplored corners of our world, and we had just heard its voice. The idea was both thrilling and petrifying. It tapped into our most primal fears of the unknown deep. And then, someone noticed something else. A coincidence so strange, it seemed to blur the line between reality and fiction. The coordinates of the Bloop's origin, deep in the South Pacific, were unnervingly close to the location of a fictional, sunken city described in a 1928 story by the master of cosmic horror, H.P. Lovecraft. The name of the city was Relia, and according to the story, it was the prison of a monstrous, sleeping godlike entity named Cthulhu. Was it possible that Lovecraft wasn't just writing fiction? For nearly 2 decades, this was the narrative. The bloop was the sound of a biological creature of unimaginable size. The mystery became a modern legend, but science is a patient hunter, and the story was not over. As the years passed, NOAA continued to upgrade its hydrophone network, deploying more sensors, particularly in the frigid, desolate waters surrounding Antarctica. They were studying the sounds of the shifting ice, the groans and moans of the planet's frozen continent. They began to record a specific type of sound: icequakes. These are not earthquakes in the traditional sense. They are the sounds produced when colossal icebergs calve or break away from glaciers. As a piece of ice the size of a city cracks, tears, and scrapes its way into the sea, it releases a tremendous amount of acoustic energy. The scientists recorded these icequakes, analyzed their signatures, and noticed a startling similarity. The acoustic profile of a large iceberg fracturing had the same rising frequency and low-end power as the 1997 Bloop recording. In 2005, NOAA's lead scientist on the project, Dr. Christopher Fox, went on record. He stated that the sound was consistent with the noises generated by large icebergs. By 2012, the official explanation was cemented. The bloop was not a monster. It was the death cry of an iceberg. Case closed. Or was it? While the icequake theory is the most widely accepted scientific explanation, nagging questions remain for those who have studied the signal. The 1997 sound had a remarkably clean, organic profile, one that many acousticians still argue is more consistent with a biological origin than the chaotic, scraping noise of ice. Furthermore, while many icequakes have been recorded since, none have perfectly matched the unique amplitude and signature of the original bloop. Was the icequake explanation an easy way to close a file that was becoming too strange? A way to put a neat, scientific label on something that was profoundly, disturbingly unexplainable? The ocean keeps its secrets well. And while the official story has been written, many still listen to that recording, sped up to an audible pitch, and hear not the cracking of ice, but the voice of something else. Something vast, ancient, and very much alive. The mystery of the bloop is a perfect gateway into the world of the oceanic unexplained. It shows us how a single piece of data can challenge our understanding of the world and force us to confront the possibility that we are not the only giants on this planet. But sounds are not the only enigma the deep has offered up. Sometimes, it shows us things. Objects so out of place, so technologically strange, that they seem to come not from our world, but from another. Our next destination takes us from the South Pacific to the cold, murky depths of the Baltic Sea, where a team of oceanographers found something on the sonar that should not be there. Something that looked manufactured. In June of 2011, a Swedish oceanographic exploration team named Ocean X, led by Peter Lindberg and Dennis Osberg, were on a commercial dive. They were treasure hunters, using advanced side-scan sonar to search the floor of the Baltic Sea between Sweden and Finland for the wrecks of old ships, hoping to find valuable cargo. For days, their screens showed nothing but the monotonous, muddy expanse of the seafloor, some 90 meters below the surface. And then, something appeared on the sonar display. Something that made them all fall silent. It was a perfectly circular object, massive in scale, measuring approximately 60 meters in diameter, about the size of a jumbo jet. It was featureless, smooth, and looked utterly out of place. It had the distinct appearance of a manufactured disc resting on the seabed. Lindbergh would later describe his reaction. "You see a lot of weird stuff in this job, but during my 18 years as a professional, I have never seen anything like this." The sonar image was incredible. The object appeared to be a perfect circle, with strange, rigid lines and right angles on its surface. It almost looked like a giant stone mushroom, raised on a pillar about 8 meters high. Even more bizarrely, leading away from the object was what appeared to be a drag mark, or runway, stretching for 300 meters across the seafloor, suggesting the object had skidded or crashed before coming to a stop. The media exploded. The image was plastered across newspapers and websites around the world. The press nicknamed it the Baltic Sea Anomaly. Speculation ran wild. The shape was so reminiscent of the fictional Millennium Falcon from Star Wars that many immediately jumped to the conclusion that it was a crashed UFO, or as it's known in naval terms, a USO, an unidentified submerged object. The Ocean X team, now funded by a television production company, mounted a second expedition to get a closer look. What they found only deepened the mystery. When their remote-operated vehicle, ROV, approached the anomaly, they reported that their electronic equipment began to fail. Satellite phones, cameras, and the ROV's own systems would shut down whenever they were directly over the object, only to start working again when they moved away. Divers were sent down into the cold, dark water where visibility was near zero. They described the surface of the object as being made of a rough, granite-like rock, but with textures that felt unnatural. The circular shape was confirmed. They managed to chip off a sample of the rock for analysis. Geologists who examined the samples stated they were pieces of basalt, a common volcanic rock, with traces of iron, not exactly alien technology. The scientific community largely dismissed the anomaly as a unique but entirely natural glacial deposit, a rock formation left behind by retreating glaciers during the Ice Age. But the story told by the Ocean X team refused to fade. They claimed the samples showed burn marks, something not typically found on rocks that have been underwater for thousands of years. They pointed to the perfectly circular shape, the pillar-like structure, and the mysterious runway as evidence that this was no mere rock. Other theories emerged. Could it be a secret, lost anti-submarine weapon from the Nazi era, a relic of World War II's technological experiments? Or perhaps it was something far older, the remnant of an ancient, unknown civilization. The debate rages on. Scientists argue it's a textbook example of pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see familiar patterns in random shapes, amplified by low-resolution sonar. The Ocean X team and their supporters maintain that they found something extraordinary, something that defies a simple geological explanation. The truth of the Baltic Sea anomaly remains buried 90 meters deep in murky water. Is it a rock, a lost piece of military hardware, or is it the silent, waiting wreckage of a visitor from another world? This object forces us to consider that history, as we know it, may be incomplete, that there could be chapters of our past and the past of our planet that have been submerged and forgotten. But what if there was a structure so vast, so complex, that it couldn't be a coincidence? What if there was an entire city sleeping beneath the waves? Our next journey takes us to the coast of Japan, to a discovery that could rewrite human history. For centuries, the fishermen of Yonaguni, the southernmost of the Ryukyu Islands of Japan, spoke of a legend, a story of a great city lost to the sea, a Pacific Atlantis swallowed by a great cataclysm. It was a myth, a piece of folklore, until 1986. A local diver and tour operator named Kihachiro Aratake was scouting for new dive spots, looking for interesting places to observe hammerhead sharks. As he explored the waters off the southern coast of the island, he made a discovery that would change his life and potentially our understanding of the ancient world. There, lying beneath 25 meters of water, was a colossal, monolithic structure. It was a series of immense, stepped terraces, perfectly flat platforms, and towering, near-vertical stone walls. It looked, for all the world, like a submerged pyramid. The structure is immense. It stretches for about 150 meters in length and 40 meters in width, rising to a height of 27 meters from the seabed. The main feature, known as the main terrace, is a massive, flat, rectangular platform that looks like a ceremonial stage. Leading up to it are what appear to be giant steps, each one several meters high. The entire formation is carved from a single, solid piece of sandstone bedrock. It is not a collection of blocks stacked on top of each other like the pyramids of Egypt. It is a mountain that appears to have been shaped and carved. As divers explored further, they found more incredible features. There was a formation that looked like a giant turtle carved from the rock, another that resembled a human face, and a series of smaller, circular holes that seemed to be post holes, designed to hold up wooden pillars. One of the most striking features is a triangular pool, with two large, circular holes at its edge that serve no apparent natural purpose. The precision of the lines, the sharp 90-degree angles, the symmetry, it all screamed of artificial design. The discovery of the Yonaguni Monument, as it came to be known, ignited a fierce debate between two opposing camps. On one side are the geologists and mainstream academics. They argue that the monument is a purely natural phenomenon. They explain that sandstone, the rock from which the monument is formed, naturally fractures along horizontal and vertical planes, creating the appearance of flat surfaces and sharp angles. They suggest that the strong ocean currents in the area could have eroded the rock over thousands of years, carving out the shapes that we now interpret as man-made. To them, the turtle and the face are simply more examples of pareidolia, our brain's desperate attempt to find meaning in random patterns. It's a compelling, logical argument, but it fails to satisfy everyone. On the other side is a group of researchers led by Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus. After spending years and hundreds of dives meticulously mapping the site, Kimura is convinced that the monument is artificial. He argues that the concentration of so many unusual features in one small area makes a natural origin statistically improbable. He points to the intricate details, like the series of smaller steps carved into the main terraces and the apparent carving marks on the stone, as evidence of human tool use. He believes that the structure is a remnant of a lost civilization from the Jomon period of Japanese prehistory, a city that was submerged by a massive earthquake and tsunami over 5,000 years ago. If he is right, the implications are staggering. It would mean that a sophisticated, unknown civilization, capable of immense stonework, existed in Asia thousands of years before the great civilizations of Egypt and Mesopotamia. It would mean that human history is far older and more complex than our textbooks tell us. Today, the Yonaguni Monument remains a tantalizing enigma. It is a place where science and speculation collide. Is it a breathtaking trick of nature, a geological masterpiece sculpted by the patient hand of the ocean, or is it a stone testament to a forgotten chapter of human history, a city of ghosts sleeping beneath the waves? As you look at the underwater footage, at the sheer scale and strangeness of this place, you have to ask yourself, what do you believe? The ocean floor is a museum of lost history, holding the wrecks of ships and the bones of ancient creatures. But perhaps it holds more. Perhaps it holds the keys to our own origin. While the mystery of Yonaguni remains locked in stone, our next enigma is far more active. It concerns objects that are not just resting on the seabed, but are seen moving through the water with impossible speed and intelligence. They are the ocean's own UFOs, unidentified submerged objects. The year is 2004. The location, about 160 kilometers off the coast of San Diego, California. The USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, one of the most advanced naval fleets on the planet, is conducting routine training exercises. The sky is clear, the sea is calm, but the world is about to get much, much weirder. For 2 weeks, the group's state-of-the-art radar system, the Spy 1, had been detecting strange objects. These objects would appear suddenly at an altitude of 80,000 feet, far higher than commercial or military aircraft can fly, before plunging down towards the sea at astonishing speeds. Stopping instantly just above the waves, they were playing a cat-and-mouse game with the most powerful military on Earth. Finally, the carrier group decided to investigate. 2F divided by A, 18 Super Hornet fighter jets, piloted by Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich, were sent to intercept. As they approached the coordinates, they looked down at the ocean. The water was churning. A large, cross-shaped disturbance was visible on the surface, as if something huge was submerged just beneath. And hovering erratically just above this disturbance was the object itself. It was smooth, white, oblong, and had no wings, no propellers, no visible means of propulsion. It looked, Fravor would later say, like a giant tic-tac. Fravor decided to engage. He began a spiral descent to get a closer look. As he did, the tic-tac seemed to notice him. It mirrored his movement, ascending to meet him. And then, as Fravor cut across the circle to get in front of it, the object vanished. It didn't fly away. It simply wasn't there anymore. Less than a minute later, the USS Princeton, another ship in the strike group, reacquired the object on its radar. It was now 100 kilometers away. It had traversed that distance in seconds, an act of acceleration that is impossible for any known technology. This event, known as the Nimitz encounter, is one of the most well-documented and credible UFO cases in history, largely because of the multiple high-tech sensors and trained military eyewitnesses involved. But the part of the story that is often overlooked is the USO aspect, the unidentified, submerged object. What was that giant, cross-shaped disturbance in the water that the tic-tac was hovering over? Senior Chief Kevin Day, the radar operator on the USS Princeton who first tracked the objects, believes the tic-tac was just one of a fleet, and that their base of operations was not in the sky, but deep within the ocean. This opens up a fascinating and terrifying possibility. When we look to the stars for intelligent life, are we looking in the wrong direction? What if they are already here, not as visitors from space, but as inhabitants of the abyss? The Nimitz case is not an isolated incident. For decades, sailors, submarine crews, and fishermen have reported seeing strange lights and objects moving at incredible speeds beneath the waves. The Shag Harbor incident in Canada in 1967, where multiple witnesses saw a large, glowing object crash into the water and then move around under the surface, is another classic case. These are not simple UFOs that happen to be over water. These are reports of transmedium vehicles, craft that can operate seamlessly in both the atmosphere and the hydrosphere, defying the laws of physics as we understand them. The pressure of the deep ocean is immense. For a craft to move at the speeds reported without being crushed, it would require a level of material science and propulsion technology that is centuries, if not millennia, ahead of ours. Could there be an intelligent, non-human civilization sharing this planet with us, hidden beneath the waves? Are they ancient natives of Earth, a species that evolved in the deep? Or are they visitors from elsewhere, who have chosen the ocean's impenetrable depths as their perfect hiding place? The questions are profound, and as the US government slowly begins to declassify its files on what it now calls unidentified aerial phenomena, the USO question remains the biggest elephant in the room. The truth, as they say, is out there, but maybe it's been down there all along. Our journey through the forbidden depths has shown us that the ocean is a realm of profound mystery. It hides things that challenge our science, our history, and our very place in the universe. But sometimes, the mystery is not an object or a structure, but a sound so filled with anguish that it seems to be the voice of a lonely god. Our final destination takes us back to the hydrophones of Noah, to a sound recorded in the same year as the Bloop, but with a character all its own. On the 1st of March 1999, the Eastern Equatorial Pacific Autonomous Hydrophone Array picked up a strange, powerful, and deeply mournful sound. It lasted for about 15 seconds and consisted of a series of narrow-band signals, almost like a complex song. It was loud enough to be heard by sensors thousands of kilometers apart. The scientists at NOAA gave this one a woman's name. They called it Julia. The sound of Julia is haunting. When sped up, it sounds like a cry, a lament echoing from the void. Like the Bloop, its origin was a mystery, and its amplitude suggested a massive source. Again, the speculation of a giant, unknown biological creature surfaced. The sound had a complex, structured quality that was difficult to attribute to a random geological event. For a time, Julia joined the Bloop in the pantheon of great, unexplained ocean sounds. It was another piece of the puzzle, another hint that the deep sea was home to things beyond our comprehension. Could there be not one, but multiple species of colossal creatures, each with its own unique voice, calling out to each other across the lonely, dark plains of the abyss. The idea is both romantic and deeply unsettling. However, as with the Bloop, a more terrestrial explanation eventually emerged. Scientists traced the origin of the sound to the Antarctic Peninsula. They concluded that the sound was most likely generated by a large iceberg running aground off the coast of Antarctica. The scraping and fracturing of the ice against the seabed, they argued, could produce the complex, narrow-band signals that were recorded. Once again, a potentially world-changing mystery was resolved with a seemingly mundane explanation. An iceberg, not a monster, not a lost civilization, not an alien craft, but a piece of ice. It is a testament to the power of the scientific method, its ability to cut through speculation and find rational answers. But we must ask ourselves, does it truly answer everything? The ocean continues to whisper its secrets. Sounds like the whistle, train, and slow down are just a few of the other named unexplained acoustic events that remain in NOAA's files, their origins still officially unknown. Each time we think we have a complete picture of our world, the ocean reminds us that we have barely glanced at the first page. It is a place of profound beauty and unimaginable horror, of serene silence and terrifying sounds. It is the cradle of life on Earth, and it may well be the keeper of its greatest secrets. We have explored its surface for thousands of years, but we have only just begun to knock on the door of the world below. What other anomalies, what other sounds, what other truths are waiting for us in the crushing, eternal darkness? The forbidden depths are vast, and they are patient. They hold the answers to questions we are not yet wise enough to ask. The only certainty is this: the greatest mysteries are not in the distant stars, but right here, in the dark, silent, waiting abyss of our own planet.